Haneen, welcome to our first 2026 episode of Well Rooted. Welcome to our first solo episode of Well Rooted. Well Rooted is where we amplify MENA voices, and that's not going to change anytime soon. But for a long time, representation has been treated like it is the finish line. If we were visible enough, if our stories were told, if we were included, progress has been made. But progress does not equal power, and it's never equaled power. This season, we are going to examine narrative sovereignty and what it takes to go from expression to ownership and from visibility to control, and from what it takes to really go from being represented to actually owning systems that shape culture. Because if representation were enough, we wouldn't still be here. If representation were enough, we wouldn't still be having the same conversations decade after decade. So let's look at what representation actually feels like. Representation feels powerful because it counteracts erasure. And this is more important than ever, particularly as Middle Easterners and especially as a Palestinian, where I've grown up here in the States, constantly having my existence questioned, right? In order to uplift a very specific narrative. And in order for a certain premise to be set for a society to exist, it has to exist on the erasure of a specific group of people, in this case, the Palestinian people. So yeah, representation feels powerful because it counteracts erasure. But the thing about representation is it also happens in systems that we don't typically own. Representation follows rules that we don't design, and representation generates value that we don't typically retain. This brings me to social media. I've come across several Palestinian influencers. I was going to say Middle Eastern or Arab influencers, but I'm going to be very direct with you. I've come across Palestinian influencers that are promoting Zionist-owned brands, not just using the brands, not just showing it on their feeds, but actually doing paid endorsements and paid ads for Zionist-owned brands. You guys, have we totally lost the plot here? You can lend any brand your image to make money off of and still not gain an ounce of power or control. When you partake in systems that exist in oppression, you are helping prolong that system of oppression. I'm going to say that again. When you partake in systems of oppression, you help prolong that system of oppression because you're not challenging them. You're not challenging it at all, actually. You're going along with it. And what's more is you are lending your Palestinian identity and your Palestinian image and your audience that you've spent years curating, that is there for you, that aligns with your values, that aligns with your identity. And you are selling them a product that is owned by their oppressor. Essentially, what you're doing is you are sending a message to your audience that's, let's be frank, is predominantly made up of Arab and or Muslim women and young girls, that their existence is meaningless when it comes to profit. You are telling them that, hey, this brand founder right here, this Zionist, doesn't see you as an equal human being, nor do they feel any need to speak out against the genocide that is happening to your people. But I want you to go ahead and give them your money. I want you to keep funneling money into the pockets of your oppressor because I get a paycheck at the end of the day. You guys, this is disgusting, disturbing behavior, and we should be calling it out, even when it exists in our community. I don't think that's deterring us from the plot. I don't think that calling out and holding each other accountable keeps us unfocused. If anything, I hope it refocuses everyone's attention on where it should be, which is challenging the systems that exist so that we can build new ones that do work in our favor and not prolonging the systems that already exist that are not in our favor, just so that we can make a quick dollar. And what really gets me about these creators is I truly think that they see themselves as quote unquote the face in the room. Essentially, what they see themselves as is representation. They see themselves as the representation for their community, and they truly believe, and this is the error. And if you are one of these creators and happen to be listening to this, welcome, and let me enlighten you. You are the representation. Representation is not equitable to power. For as long as you want to continue to participate in the scenario where you are only the representation, is the longer that you will continue to only be the representation. The systems that are in place do not change by you continuing to play the same role in that system. So again, I truly think that they maybe in their own heads think that they are going to somehow invoke change by being the representation, by participating in the system that already exists, by helping funnel more money into the pockets of their oppressors. Maybe they think that the Zionists that are in power will see that and be like, hey, actually, yeah, you do bring a lot of benefits to working with our brand. Maybe we should start seeing you as human beings. I don't know. Maybe that's truly how they feel. Maybe they think that if they are the face in the room, if they are the representation, if they have a seat at that table, that they can somehow sway the image in the minds of those that refuse to see us as human beings. And I'm here to say that that will never happen. We know that will never happen, because if it could happen, if representation were enough, we again wouldn't still be here. And what really gets me about that is also when you are a creator, and I think the reason that a lot of people choose to become creators or influencers is because they want to have more autonomy over their own careers. They want to have the wherewithal to be able to decide who and where they work, what brands they choose to work with, and have more creative control over their careers. Essentially, you are taking that control out of your hands when you are giving that control over to your oppressor. If the whole point of working for yourself is to work for yourself and get to call your own shots, why are you calling the shots that continue to disfavor you? Why are you calling the shot that attributes you to simply being the face of a brand and getting cut a check when you can reimagine what that brand and what that system actually will look like? While we are on the topic of social media and influencer economy, let's talk about TikTok really quick. So TikTok has been sold to a Zionist, a very loud, outspoken Zionist, and a lot of people are deleting their TikTok accounts or have just moved away from the app entirely without deleting anything. I totally respect that. I agree with that. I just downloaded Upscrolled yesterday. For those of you that don't know, Upscrolled is a brand new social media app that is actually owned by Palestinians. A lot of people I follow have already gone on to create accounts on that app. I have as well. I highly encourage you to do the same. And I encourage you to take this as a reminder that you can create a page on a social media platform, but you don't own that social media platform. Look how easily TikTok was bought by an outspoken known Zionist who specifically bought the app in order to censor it and to shadow ban Palestinian stories and Palestinian voices as they are being massacred in Gaza right now. We don't own these apps. We don't own the platforms. You create a page that the platform still controls, that the platform has the power to shadow ban and censor. If you're smart and you put the right distribution channels in place, you can also be collecting emails, and you can be creating a community that you can take with you from any social media platform to any other social media platform to any website to wherever you may decide to go, because you've created that audience and you've found a way outside of the platform, i.e. here, email addresses, which is probably the most valuable thing you could retain now from your audience. And that gives you power. Email addresses is a form of distribution that does in fact give you power as a creator. Having a page on a social media platform is not in itself power. Not when that platform can be easily bought and sold and controlled by powers that disfavor you and countless others. So again, download the Upscrolled app. I was playing on it a little bit yesterday. It's pretty easy to use. Again, it's owned by Palestinians. It's a lot less censored, and I've already seen a lot of people that I like that are already on there. So going back really quick to the influencers that I was addressing earlier, and the reason why we are powerless on social media, again, is because we don't own the platform. One side owns the platform. They own the distribution on that app. They own the archives on that app. The other side provides the art. The creators provide the art. If you have no way of engaging with your audience outside of that platform, then you have lost the plot and you have lost the power. when you retain distribution, again, through collecting email addresses and fostering some sort of community that can go off of that app and transfer to another app, transfer to a website, whatever it may be, you in that way can create power for yourself. You have more control over your connection with that audience at that point. But going back to the influencers that were promoting Zionist owned brands, and again, I truly think that maybe the thought process there is that if I'm the face in the room, then I can be some sort of bridge between my community and this brand and the brand founder. And the truth of the matter is, communities can be incredibly culturally influential. No one is more influential than the female Black community. It is the most influential community out of any, particularly here in the West. And yet, those communities that are the most influential, that you would think would have the most power, can still remain incredibly unpowerful because structurally they are under resourced. Okay, so ownership. What is ownership? Ownership looks like retaining intellectual property instead of selling it outright. It's about owning distribution. It's about structuring entities that protect value. Ownership is reinvesting revenue into continuity. It's about building the system and then continuing to reinvest into it so that it is eternally real. And of course, because it involves all of that, because it involves and requires you reinvesting into it for it to continue to grow, it requires a lot of patience. It requires structure. It requires long-term thinking. An excellent example of ownership is the film Sinners and the filmmaker Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler has been making waves with this film. It's really, in my opinion, reinvigorated cinema and the moviegoer experience. Sinners is an excellent film. Ryan Coogler will own the rights to Sinners within 25 years. He gets first dollar gross, and all of this was negotiated before the film was even released. This is an this is a superior example of what narrative sovereignty, of what narrative ownership really looks like. And not just ownership, obviously, in the very tangible way where he actually owns the script and owns the rights to the film within 25 years, but ownership in that this film is so personal to him and so symbolic to him because it pertains to his family history, his own personal family history, that he is so unwilling to let go of it and to put it in the hands of someone else. He is willing to give the power related to this film up to anyone else. And I admire that so freaking much. I think that is an amazing example to put forth for not only all marginalized communities who have typically not had control over their own narratives, who've had to just sort of rely on being represented and having representation, which representation occurs in other people's stories, not in our own, which is why it's called representation. What Ryan Coogler is doing with Sinners by retaining ownership over that story and over the rights to that film is he is demonstrating the most elite example of narrative sovereignty we have ever seen in Hollywood. He has stated that this story is so personal and so symbolic for him as it relates to the history of his own family that he is unwilling to put it in the hands of anyone else. And I admire that so much, guys. I think that is so powerful. And I know it's powerful because it's being met with an incredulous amount of resistance from Hollywood, from the entire entertainment industry. It's why, as majestic as this film was, in terms of being just a masterpiece in the moviegoer experience, as amazing as this film is, it is being met with so much resistance by the powers that be in Hollywood. It's almost comical at this point. The way that it is not being honored this award season so far is quite astonishing. It really is. The dialogue right now on social media is that Marty Supreme, which is a film with a very huge marketing budget, apparently. I don't know anything else about this film besides the fact that they have marketed the crap out of it. is being honored throughout every category this award season so far, even more so than Sinners is, that had such a huge box office record break that, again, is just exceptional in every category. And Marty Supreme, which has only been out for a few weeks now, but again has just been marketed really well, is being honored so much more. It's being mentioned in so many categories this award season so far, and people are understandably very upset about it. Because essentially what this is, it's sort of like a battle between those that are in power and that have designed the systems and those that have just been participating in the systems. And Ryan Coogler is challenging the system of oppression that's disfavored him. He's challenging the systems that are in power by retaining ownership of his story. And they in turn are challenging his power. And he's sticking to his guns. And again, it's a really great lesson in narrative sovereignty. And I think it's very revolutionary for Hollywood. It's a revolutionary case study in Hollywood contracts and retaining ownership and granting power to the creatives in Hollywood. Another excellent example of narrative sovereignty and having ownership within the entertainment industry is Watermelon Pictures. Watermelon Pictures is the first Palestinian-owned production house. It is groundbreaking. I mean, we have The Voice of Hind Rajab that is officially nominated for an Oscar for Best Foreign Film. It is produced by Watermelon Pictures. If it wasn't for Watermelon Pictures creating a whole new system where our stories can exist and thrive and reach huge audiences, if it wasn't for that, we would continue to be at the mercy of the systems that are already in place, that already only want to see us pertained in a very specific light, that already only allow our stories to exist when they serve the narrative that they have put in place. What Watermelon Pictures does is it allows for narrative sovereignty to exist within the Palestinian storytelling world in a way that it never was allowed to exist before. It's, again, challenging a system that's already there. It's challenging by building a brand new system where power is put in the hands of the Palestinian creative and the Arab creative. Representation is not meaningless. And I hope that's not what you got out of this at all, because that's not what I'm trying to communicate at all. Representation is a step in the right direction, but it is incomplete on its own. Ownership allows culture to defend itself. And over the past 2.5 years, we have definitely seen how the systems in place disfavor us. And in order to have more sway in the decisions that are being made, especially the decisions that affect us and our communities, we need to cultivate ways in which we have power. That's what will allow us to defend ourselves. That's what will allow our culture to continue to exist and to grow. Ownership allows culture to defend itself. Systems are what allow it to last. We will get a lot more into narrative sovereignty. We will go way deeper into this topic this season. We will be back next week with a full-length interview episode featuring filmmaker Rolla Selbak. I am so excited for you guys to hear this episode and to hear everything else we've been cooking up for you guys this year. Thank you for tuning in. I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.